My name is Zane Gambo. I'm from ShipStation, and today we're joined by Ross Paul from LemonStand. We're going to be discussing tapping the subscription e-commerce growth opportunity. So just quick agenda of what we're going to be running through, some brief introductions. We'll talk about the market opportunity of the subscription e-commerce, buyer demographics, different types of subscriptions, in addition to buying drivers and those challenges. We'll then touch on some tools and automations that you can use to streamline that fulfillment, the increase in orders that are sure to follow. And then we'll talk about some businesses that are doing subscription services right. And then we'll finish up with a brief summary and a Q&A. And Ross, I'll let you take this from here.
Sure. So for those of you who don't know who LemonStand is, we are a fast-growing software as a service e-commerce platform startup. One of the key kind of unique differentiators of LemonStand is that we have built-in features that allow you to sell both a sort of typical one-time purchase e-commerce products as well as recurring subscriptions, or a mix of both, and it's all built in, so there's no third-party apps or plugins required in order to do this. We have customers in over 20 countries around the world and growing, and we are made with some very sweet lemon juice in Vancouver, Canada, and we are very passionate about helping to reinvent retail for the next generation of merchants and consumers online.
Perfect. And I'll just touch briefly on ShipStation. We're a multi-channel order management software that essentially helps you pull all of your orders into one dashboard and connect your different providers, batch print, maintain your inventory, and utilize automation rules to help streamline your fulfillment. We also allow you to compare rates, and we're headquartered right here in Austin, Texas.
And as for who I am, I'm the VP of Growth at LemonStand, and I think I have the most gray hair of the entire team. I've been involved in software and e-commerce businesses for too many years to speak of, and I've been involved in a lot of business startups and high growth startups. I've done some investing as well, and just generally, I love growing technology businesses and e-commerce businesses. And given that it's almost Halloween, I also like to dress up as a trash talking mercenary. You can see me there with my wife and kids on Halloween last year.
And then a bit about me. Zane Gambo, I live here in Austin, Texas, also known as the live music capital of the world, and food truck heaven, for those of you that haven't been. I work in partner marketing here at ShipStation. I've been with the company about 2 years. Love food, great food, and my dog. And I really enjoy the opportunity to help merchants really utilize, a variety of tools within e-commerce to help catapult their business to that next level. So with that, Ross, I'll let you take it from here.
Great. So we all know, or most of us know, that the e-commerce market is growing very quickly and is rapidly becoming a very big market. In 2020, it'll be over a $500 billion market in terms of online sales, and still growing at a high single-digit rate, so still growing very quickly. But probably more interestingly, even though still a fairly small percentage of total retail sales is done online, over half of all retail sales now are either done online or at least influenced online prior to the purchase. And so, Zane, maybe just advance it one. That's a big market. We all like that market. It's a very big opportunity. And let's move on to the next slide. So that's the overall e-commerce market. But if we look at the subscription e-commerce market, and maybe just for definition purposes here, I'll talk about what that means with regards to this webinar. We're really talking about subscriptions specific to online retail, so things that people are signing up to and having shipped to them on a regular basis. but they're signing up online. And that market has been off of much smaller numbers. In fact, there was almost no market 6 or 7 years ago in 2011. That has been growing at 100% plus year over year consistently since it really began, and is continuing to grow at that rate. So as of 2016, just based on internet retailers top 500 list, they did over 2.6 billion in online sales, triple digit year over year growth, and that has continued, and we expect that to continue for many years to come. And we'll talk a little bit more about why and how that's happening in the next slides. Maybe advance that one.
I've actually just transferred the keyboard over to you, so you've got the control now.
Great. Not working. Oh, there we go. So that's some big money, and it's getting bigger. I just want to maybe back it up just in case. Yeah, so that's some big money. I don't know if anybody knows who this guy is. This is a guy named Michael Weckerly. He's a banker in Canada, an investor, and he is one of the cast of Dragon's Den, which is the Canadian version of Shark Tank. And he likes the big money. And not advancing.
Okay, there we go.
All right. Maybe I'll let you drive, Zane.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, so just maybe to talk a little bit about who is buying these subscription products online. According to Hitwide, there were over 5.7 million shoppers last year who were subscription box shoppers. There's some kind of summaries of the demographics there in terms of what they see as the, I guess, the sweet spot for the audience profile. And I wouldn't necessarily say that, these demographics, the late millennial with a college degree who's a liberal and, more than half are female, is necessarily the description of all subscription box purchasers, more that they over index in these areas. So while there are, subscription box shoppers of all shapes and sizes, there's a much larger proportion of them are likely to fit these types of demographics, at least today. And as this market matures and the offerings that become available grow, then the breadth of who is in that sweet spot is going to expand. And interestingly, the buying behavior is fairly different. The model is pretty appealing for those who subscribe, and actually the median number of an active subscriber holds is actually 2 subscriptions. So the average subscriber is going to hold at least 2 subscriptions, but over 35% actually have 3 or more. And there's definitely differences between males and females. So men are more likely than women to have 3 or more active subscriptions. As you can kind of see from this graph, 42% men have 3 or more subscriptions, only 28% women. So this suggests that men particularly value the automated purchasing and the ability to limit their trips to store. And being a man myself, I do have to say I'm not in love with shopping, and the more I can do to avoid it, the more I'm going to do. My wife would probably disagree here, and so I definitely have more subscriptions than she does. So this is really just a kind of a summary of the top 10 sites, and then also overall, and then also kind of broken down by men and women. The most popular services, Amazon Subscribe and Save, which is really available for most consumer packaged goods that are available from Amazon's marketplace online, is definitely a huge trendsetter here. And then Dollar Shave Club, who, for those of you who don't know, they sell razors on subscription. They have nearly twice as many subscribers as the next services on the top 10 list. Others to note there's Ipsy, which is beauty products, Blue Apron, which is meal kits, Birchbox, which is also beauty products. Those round out the top 5. And then both men and women, whether they're buying for themselves or for others, they use many of the leaders, but women are much more likely to subscribe to things like beauty and apparel services. So things like Stitch Fix, which is apparel, Adore Me, which is lingerie, and Shoe Dazzle, which is shoes, whereas men are more likely to gravitate towards the consumables, so things like razors. They also like geeky stuff like video gaming gear and collectibles, so Loot Crate is a good example of that. And then things like meal kit or food delivery services, so Home Chef and Instacart, in addition to Blue Apron and HelloFresh there. Yeah, so in terms of the schedules, the monthly schedules that people purchase on, definitely monthly subscription schedules are the most popular, but the schedules really vary widely, and a lot of it depends on, what it is you're ordering on subscriptions. So consumables tend to skew towards shorter intervals, so things like food. There's a lot of food and meal services that will be on a weekly or even a multiple deliveries a week type of a schedule, whereas things like maybe medical items or office supplies, or maybe themed gift boxes tend to skew towards longer intervals. The flexibility to support a wide range of schedules is important when you think about an e-commerce platform, because it really is going to depend on what your subscription offering is, who you're selling it to, and how often they're going to need it. And so you should think about that if you are considering adding subscription options to an existing business or launching a new business. So really just to talk about the subscription types, there are broadly three types of subscriptions. There's what's called a replenishment subscription, a curation, and an access. I'll talk about each in a little bit more detail. So replenishment subscriptions allow consumers to automate the purchase of typically commodity items, so things that they just need on a repeat basis because they consume them regularly. So things like razors or diapers are good examples of that. Then there's curation. So curation subscriptions tend to really try to kind of surprise and delight their subscribers by providing new items or really personalized experiences. And so they tend to, do well in categories such as apparel, beauty, food, where, literally every shipment can contain something that is new and interesting to the subscriber. And then finally, access subscribers, they typically will pay a monthly or some kind of a regular recurring fee to obtain lower prices or members only perks. So, this works really well, especially in the areas of things like apparel or food. Curation services with 55% of total subscriptions are by far the most popular. And you've seen that a lot of the, what you would call a subscription box type service, where there's sort of, every time you open the box, there's something different. And so this suggests a really strong desire for personalized services. And then replenishment accounts for 32% of subscriptions, whereas access subscriptions are really still a fairly small percentage of the overall activity in subscriptions. So the most important buying triggers, recommendation, including word of mouth and positive online reviews, is really a very big trigger for consumers to sign up with a subscription service, especially for those for curation and access. When you're not quite sure what you're going to get, it really helps you make the decision if somebody's telling you that they've already tried it and it's great. Subscribers to both of these types of services also want something really new and innovative. Whereas with replenishment, the subscribers are more motivated by financial incentives, so things like discounts and really just convenience, the ability to get a commodity item potentially at a discount without having to go out of their way to get it.
And just quickly, Ross, when I actually subscribed to Dollar Shave Club, they were actually incentivizing some of their users if you recommended a friend. So if I'm not mistaken, I think it was, get a month free if you recommended someone. So, as we see, recommending an individual tends to be one of those high drivers of the buying triggers. Some of these companies will incentivize financially to refer someone because they know that word of mouth is so powerful.
Absolutely, and another thing to consider here is that because this is a recurring revenue stream for them, the lifetime value of a customer versus kind of a one-time purchase can be much higher. And so, what we've seen is that a lot of subscription retailers are building, referral management and referral programs right into their businesses because it's actually a relatively low-cost way to acquire new customers who will, over the long term, be very profitable for them.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more.
So, then we kind of look at the most important reason to why a subscriber continues. And this is pretty important because, the lifeblood of a subscription business is retaining the subscribers that they acquire. Um, so, the reasons that they continue subscribing, consumers, especially in the curation and kind of access categories, they expect personalized subscriptions to become more tailored over time. And essentially this, almost the service should become better and better and more tailored to what they like and what they need over time. 28% of both of these groups said that the personalized subscription experience was the most important reason. It's the thing that kept them as a customer. Curation customers also really like to be just kind of surprised and delighted and to feel that they're getting good value for money. In contrast, access subscribers really emphasize convenience as a reason to subscribe in addition to personalization. And then for replenishment, convenience was the most important consideration. Who really wants to go out to the store to get dog food every week or every month? It's not something that's really necessarily a pleasant experience. And so if you could just have something that you're consuming on a regular basis delivered to you without the hassle, that's really the big driver of this. Although value for money is number two, and then the ability to personalize and make changes based on your consumption is a third one.
Yeah, as you were saying, personalized experience is really in that top tier for all of them. So I can't be stressed enough, how important it is to keep that data mindful of your merchants and of the individuals purchasing your product, so that you can be sure that you're really tailoring that step by step, and each individual thing that's maybe returned on a curation subscription is accounted for, so that you're able to get a better sense of what you should be providing for those individuals. Because like you said, that subscription is the lifeblood, or that recurring revenue is that lifeblood for the subscription service.
Absolutely. And that's a good segue into what drives cancellation. And this is the bane of a subscription business. Low cancellation rates are the number one priority of anyone who is trying to build, a growing recurring revenue stream. The higher the cancellation rates, the harder it is to grow that recurring revenue stream. So consumers are quick to cancel services that really don't provide that superior experience. So, and this could be, a variety of things. The customer experience is everything from poor product quality to dissatisfaction with the variety and assortment, or lack of perceived value. Curation and access subscribers, they also tend to cancel when they don't feel like they're getting value for money, probably because these types of services are more discretionary products, right? They're not necessarily something they need so much as something that they want. A key challenge for all subscription providers is kind of matching supply and demand. Consumers are much more likely to cancel when products pile up, or if they can't customize order volumes to match their actual requirements. For example, if you've got a regular, let's say a weekly meal delivery service that you've signed up to, and you go away on vacation and you can't pause or skip a couple of deliveries, that's a pretty good reason to just cancel. You're not going to pay for food that you're not going to eat. In these situations, subscribers say they'd really prefer to buy the products when they need them, either in stores or from transactional e-commerce services, instead of subscribing if they don't have that flexibility. So the ability to allow someone to pause their service without canceling and then reactivate, or to potentially skip a delivery or a certain number of deliveries, so that they can go on holiday and then they can come back and still continue to get what they've subscribed to, but not pay for it while they're away. these are subtle but really important ways that you can really improve retention.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I was actually using Dollar Shave Club years ago, and I actually canceled my subscription because I was getting so many razors every month. I've got a beard, so there's not that much for me to really shave. And when I canceled, I'd put that in as the reason, and not a month later, I got an email asking if I wanted to join back, and it was, you can do it every other month, or you can order razors once a quarter. I think that was something that they did really well. They were able to act on that, and they realized that not everyone needs, 4 razors every single month. So being able to offer that variety to me is really what got me back on their subscription.
Absolutely. So maybe just to talk a little bit about the purchase funnel, and kind of how things perform differently across these different types of subscription models. It can be difficult for these businesses to acquire and then retain consumers. So on the acquisition side, only about 50%, 53% of consumers know about even one of the top services. This is obviously changing as more and more of these services become prevalent, and they get a lot of press. But it's still interesting to note there are a lot of people who aren't aware of even the top services. And on top of that, conversion tends to be weak. So only 55% of those who consider one of these services ultimately subscribes, probably because people are reluctant to sign up to what they kind of perceive as a long-term commitment. The replenishment services have a higher conversion rate than the curation and the access services, um, possibly because again it's maybe more of a need than a want. And so the commitment's kind of already been made mentally. You're going to buy dog food or diapers or razors on a regular basis. And so why not just sign up and make it more convenient, whereas some of the things that you might not necessarily be sure you're going to buy, or things that you're not necessarily convinced that you should commit to on a recurring basis. So the biggest challenge facing subscription companies is churn. Any kind of subscription business, whether it's what we're talking about here, e-commerce where you're shipping goods to your customers, or even software businesses like ShipStation and LemonStand. The biggest challenge is churn, and the companies that do the best find ways to reduce the churn. They depend on long-term relationships to provide predictable revenue growth and give deep insights into customer behavior. And these insights allow them to personalize the experience to continue making their service better and improve the retention of their customers. Churn can dramatically undermine your viability, since the cost of replacing lost subscribers can make it difficult to meet your growth objectives and also drain your cash. So reducing churn is the number one thing that once you've established a business and you've kind of learned how to acquire customers, it's typically becomes quickly the number one focus of a business on how they can improve. So a lot of these statistics came from McKinsey, and overall they found that nearly 40% of e-commerce subscribers have canceled at least one of the subscriptions that they've signed up to. I would be in that 40%. I don't know about you, Zane.
Oh, absolutely. I've definitely been in that 40%.
And the rates, it's interesting, the rates are similar across the different types of subscription services. The higher the churn rate, the more difficult it becomes for them to cover their acquisition costs and scale. And many customers who churn, they tend to do it quickly. And again, I think this parallels whether it's in software or e-commerce subscriptions. Typically, if you sign up for something and it's not what you expected, or you're not happy with what you signed up, you're going to know pretty quickly, and you're probably going to cancel. So that's one of the things that maybe comes out of this, is that there's some really interesting businesses, and Dollar Shave Club is a good example of this, where they have maybe they give away something free, some kind of a free trial pack, and there's kind of a trial. But but you really need to be careful in investing in these types of things, because if you're going to give something away and most people are going to churn almost immediately afterwards, then the cost may outweigh the benefit. So you really have to test models like these and make sure that any kind of a free trial or a heavy discount that you're offering up front is going to have a payback. More than a third of consumers who sign up to a subscription service actually cancel in less than 3 months, and over half cancel within 6. And in our experience, what we've seen is if you can retain a customer for more than 6 months, then those customers become very, very valuable and tend to stay with you for a very long time. The meal kit category, interestingly, seems to have particularly high rates of cancellation within the first 6 months, probably reflecting, things like rising competition, competitive prices, and there are a lot of similarities, especially among the leading players. And I think we've seen that maybe reflected in some of the valuations of some of these larger players as well, especially recently. The good news is that once a consumer finds a service they like, they can be really sticky and a very, very profitable customer to a subscription business. Replenishment services have particularly high long-term subscription rates. 45% of members, based on this study by McKinsey, had subscribed for at least a year, about 10 percentage points higher than for the other types of services. And then the companies with the highest long-term subscription rates that are really doing well, at least the large ones, good examples would be Amazon with their Subscribe and Save offering, Dollar Shave Club, Ipsy, JustFab, and Loot Crate.
So just want to talk a bit about some of the things that y'all can utilize, in the event that you're starting a subscription service or you have one already. Automation's key to making sure that, you can really keep up with that influx of orders or that increase that's happening. So, things like service mapping are great. Being able to automatically assign a particular carrier and type of service to an order based on its location. So if you know that everything that's under 16 ounces is going to be USPS first class mail, within, say the first, 8 states to your right or your left or whatever that may be, however you're setting that up, that really saves you a lot of time without having to go in there and individually assign each carrier and each service type. So as you're growing, any orders that come in matching that criteria will fall into place there. And then different automation rules, like I'd mentioned, anything under 16 ounces, USPS first class shipping, or perhaps it's, anything west of the Mississippi, you push that out to a fulfillment provider. And then also layering different types of automation over one another so that there's supremacy within those layers, so that one can actually overrule the other based on certain criteria. Another great thing to use is tagging. So really being able to tag and assign your orders out to individuals within your warehouse, so that those individuals can only see the orders that are assigned and tagged for them. So you're not fulfilling one order twice. That's one thing that we've seen a lot in warehouses is as you're growing quickly, being able to keep that organization within the warehouse and making sure that everyone's focused on, only their job is really key to that growth and making sure that you're really optimizing the way you're expanding. And then of course, features like scan to print. So as opposed to going in and, whatever software you may be using, making 5, 6, 7 clicks, a lot of these logistics softwares now will have a scan to print feature where, you drop the package on a scale, you scan the packing slip, you scan the barcode there, and it automatically weighs it, prints out a label with that service mapped carrier and service already assigned. So you're literally, 2, 3 scans, slapping a label on the box and getting it out the door. Those types of things, those types of automations are really key, to making sure that, while you're growing, you're doing so as efficiently as possible.
So now we'll talk through a few examples of some businesses who are really doing a great job and growing really solid businesses with a subscription model. So the first example we have here is Circle, who is a joint LemonStand and ShipStation customer. And these guys are really cool. I'm actually a subscriber, I have to admit, so I might be a little bit biased. But what they do is they make an innovative flavored water cartridge. So basically what it is, you take a water bottle with a special top on it, and there's a cartridge that you screw into the bottle. And you literally just put, fill your bottle up with water, and as you drink it, it flows through the filter and gives you a flavor. And it's all 0 calorie. They have caffeinated, just pure 0 calorie. They have what's the Gatorade? I'm trying to remember. um, Electrolyte infused, and then a mix of caffeine and electrolytes. And these guys pre-launched on Indiegogo, and basically kind of proved that they had a market for this cool filter that they invented. And then they did a soft launch in the second half of last year, and they have been growing at just crazy rates, literally triple digits every month since. Let's move on to the next slide, and we'll just talk a little bit about some of the things that they did that really seem to have helped them take off. So the first is they've got an innovative, unique, high value product. It's a 0 calorie vitamin, electrolyte, caffeine infused flavored water. It's actually, in my opinion, it actually tastes better than most of the stuff that you can buy in the supermarket, whether that's vitamin water or Gatorade or any of these other it could be iced teas or whatever. And there's a big flavor selection there, and it's also clean and space saving. So it's more convenient. You get it delivered to your door. Doesn't take up a lot of space. Doesn't take up a lot of storage space. And then they've reduced the consumer risk in terms of trying it by they basically offer a free trial period and a starter pack. And this is one instance in where this seems to have worked really well for them. The starter pack basically includes the bottle and a couple of sample flavors that you can choose when you're signing up. And then when the trial period ends, if you want to cancel, if you don't like it, then you could cancel before kind of going on to a recurring subscription. But their conversion rate and retention there has been really good. They make it super easy for their subscribers to change their plans, change the number of cartridges they receive every month, change the flavors. They're constantly adding new flavors and experimenting, and even kind of coming out with an experimental flavor that they offer to a subset of their highest value customers to figure out whether or not it's something that they should go all in on. They've built a referral program, a social referral program, where they incentivize their subscribers to tell their friends and give them a break on their upcoming bills for doing so. They've done a ton of optimization with shipping and fulfillment. They started out using a 3PL, and they were really unhappy with the customer experience, and there was damages to the products, and so they took it all in-house. They've used ShipStation to automate a lot of this. And when I first signed up to their service, I think I'd get my kind of renewal notification, and about 10 days later I'd get my shipment. Now it's happening within 2 or 3 days. So they've completely optimized this. And also I had some early damage to some of my cartridges, and I haven't had any issues since they've taken this all in-house. And a lot of that, I think, comes down to them just being fanatical about customer service. They are constantly asking their customers for feedback. If there's an issue, they're all over it like a bad rash. And they just, they're really using their existing customers to learn about what to do next and how to make the service better. And the better the service gets, the more valuable it becomes, and the more customers they're able to attract. So the next one is definitely a very different business. This is Canopy. Canopy is basically a subscription service for convenient delivery of air filters for your home. It's actually a division of a large multinational air filter and HVAC manufacturer, and they've basically built a direct-to-consumer service where they ship their air filters to you on a regular, typically monthly, bi-monthly, or quarterly basis. They launched in late 2017. They have had amazing growth as well. And let's move on and sort of talk about what what their keys to success. So, number one, compared to, there are some other services like this, but a lot of the other services are really just resellers of other manufacturers' products. These guys are basically going direct to consumer. They're their own products, and they provide really top quality microallergen and APA certified air filters, which in today's world is really becoming more and more important to consumers. It's super cost effective and convenient. And it's not the kind of thing that you really enjoy doing, going to the the hardware store and buying air filters. So by allowing them to get basically a discount on what they would pay retail and then not have to go to the store at all, they've really kind of found a sweet spot there. And then all subscriptions include free shipping, so they don't have to worry about the extra cash. They're not trading that time going to the to the hardware store for the convenience of the delivery. They also have really detailed instructions on how to change filters with every shipment. And at least for me, who I'm not necessarily Mr. Hands-on, just having having a little bit of guidance about how how to do this at least the first time is pretty important. And they also make it really easy for their subscribers to change their plans, change their scheduling. If they want to increase the gap between when their shipments come, they can do that. Obviously if they if they move, they can change the filters that they're getting. And then they've also built a referral program with incentives to get that word of mouth going, which is really consistently something we see as a big needle mover for subscription businesses. So the next one is an interesting one. So Whiskyloot is actually an Australian company, and what they do is they provide you with a monthly selection of premium whiskey tasters that's curated from around the world. So basically every month you get these small whiskey taster bottles that and you really don't know what you're going to get every month, and you get to try things that you may have never heard of. So if you're a kind of a whiskey enthusiast, this is a way to get exposed to a lot of whiskeys that you might not find in your own retail store. They were actually founded by one of as a LemonStand agency partner who builds a lot of e-commerce websites and has started to basically build their own e-commerce businesses, having done a lot of this. They launched last year as well, and they actually got a lot of critical acclaim in Australia. Unfortunately, for anyone who's listening who's not in Australia, you can't sign up to this service. I think they only ship in Australia. So unfortunately, this great service is only available in Australia, although I'm sure there are probably parallels in the US, Canada, and other countries. Next slide. So what these guys are doing right, a big thing for them is they're a curation type of a business, right? So they're really surprising and delighting their customers where they're shipping out samples of 3 new premium and probably hard to find whiskeys that their customers have never tried before every month. It's a much cheaper way to taste whiskey than buying full bottles. They ship these smaller taster bottles, and so the monthly cost is actually relatively low, and you get to try 3 different premium whiskeys. And then they include again, free delivery is included. They also include tasting notes and a tasting journal so that you can actually journal your experience. They've really tried to make it experiential. They offer a discount off the first month to encourage people to kind of take the leap, and then they've made it really, really easy to sign up and more viral by integrating the Facebook login so that you don't even need to kind of fill out a registration. You can log in with your Facebook credentials and kind of go straight into the checkout and pay. And then they've increased their reach and made it more viral by offering gift subscriptions, which allows other people to purchase subscriptions for their friends, and then hopefully that turns into word of mouth and continues in a viral loop. And then they also make it really easy for subscribers to pause or skip shipments or cancel, so that if they're away, they don't necessarily have to cancel the service or pay for something that they're not going to use. Finally, so Fuud. Fuud is a fresh meal delivery service. They're a Canadian company. They're actually based in Vancouver, not too far from us at LemonStand. And these guys they actually provide a weekly delivery of basically pre-prepared recipe kits that are delivered to busy people who kind of want to rediscover the joy of cooking, but don't have the time. So they're a local startup in Vancouver, focused in really just the greater Vancouver area, obviously challenging some Goliaths, some of whom we talked about earlier earlier in this webinar. They launched in late 2016 with the help of one of our partners, and they were actually featured on Dragon's Den Canada earlier this year. They did get a deal, spoiler alert. Yeah, so what these guys have done right, again, they delight their customers. They all of their recipes are new every week. They have new seasonal recipes every week. They use fresh, local, organic ingredients that are sustainably and ethically produced. So you're really getting something kind of new and different every week, and you're not, and you're not sure what it's going to be until just before. They offer plans for different diet preferences. So they have, like, vegetarian. They have, I think, yeah, omnivorous, and some other special diet preferences. They also offer you to sort of select what the meals that you're going to get based on the number of people in your family, and the number of meals that you want to cook for each person on a weekly basis. They've got some gorgeous packaging, and beautiful, colorful printed recipes that you can keep. And then they include the local delivery is built into their pricing, so there's no extra cost to that. They've done a really good job of getting the word out through local PR, as well as social sharing and review. Again, there's the referral, the word of mouth. And then they make it really easy for their customers. They actually come out with new recipes every week, and their customers can go in before their next shipment, and they can basically change their meal selections and sort of choose the recipes that are the most appealing to them. They can also pause and skip shipments, and even cancel really easily. So a quick summary here. This is still a relatively new segment of online retail, but it's already a large and growing very, very fast. It's actually not just a growth opportunity for new businesses, but it's actually an opportunity for existing, and we're seeing increasingly a lot of what we would call more of a traditional online retail business, who sells one-time purchases. They're finding opportunities, and they're actually creating subscription options for their customers to increase stickiness and help grow their revenue. So the recipe is obviously very different to succeed, depending on who you're targeting, what kinds of products you sell, and the type of subscription model you're offering. But hopefully we've been able to give you a good overview of some of the best practices in this space. And then obviously the e-commerce technology for these subscription and hybrid businesses, you really do need to allow for a lot of flexibility to enable these different models. And that's something that, shameless plug at the end, that's something that we've really built LemonStand for, and something that we've been attracting a lot of businesses to, because they found the flexibility that they need.
Well, thanks so much, Ross. Really appreciate you taking the time to jump on and educate all of us on subscription e-commerce and where those trends are going.